put those quirks away and you get rid of those idols, that really makes you look different. You're so free. You're packing light. You've got nothing to hold on to, no baggage. And that makes you a different kind of person. The Thessalonians were known because they didn't have that extra baggage. They were really different. By the way, check out verse 10, Kimberly.
They marvel at how expectantly you await the arrival of the Son, whom he raised from the dead, Jesus, who rescued us from certain doom.
See, the Thessalonians were waiting for the return of Christ. It's interesting, isn't it, that every generation of Christians thought they were going to experience the rapture. They thought they were going to experience the Lord's return. I mean, the disciples thought that he was going to come back again and rapture them during his time. The church fathers who came after the apostles, the people that came after that, thought that Christ was going to come during their time and rapture them up. During the Dark Ages, when there was just plagues and death everywhere, people were hoping that Christ would come and take them home. During the Renaissance, all of this artwork that Christianity was spreading because of art and science and math, they expected Christ to come then. Even today, you can read some books that actually have a timeline of when exactly it's going to happen. And every single one of those people has missed the date. And they continue to miss the date. Because the purpose of hoping in the imminence of Christ's return has nothing to do with dates or times. Christ even said that. I don't know when I'm coming back. Only the Father knows when I'm coming back. So dates and times are not important when it comes to living with the imminence of Christ's return. What's important about living under the imminence of Christ's return is our conduct while we're here on this earth. Jesus told a parable of the 10 virgins. And he said there were 10 virgins. The bridegroom went away, and they were left with the little oil lamps. And they were told to wait for his return. Just be smart and wait. And there were 5 virgins who conserved their oil and had extra oil just in case their lamps went out. The other ones thought that he was coming today. So they didn't recharge their lamps, and they ran out of oil. And guess what? When the bridegroom came, these 5 who didn't prepare missed it. But those who were prepared got to live and enjoy the party with the bridegroom. So what does that say to you and me? What if we lived every moment of our life as if it were the last moment? Now, a moment is an undescribed amount of time. It's not seconds or it's not minutes. A moment could be making eye contact with somebody, or it could be a 4-hour conversation on the phone. So a moment is just an undescribed period of time. What if you go to work and your very last data entry that you make this data entry as if Christ will come as soon as I'm done with this report? What if you're somebody who signs papers and your next signature could be the very last signature that you sign? What if you've got a neighbor that you know doesn't know the Lord, but you've developed a relationship and you want to finally share the Lord with them, but you're afraid that if you don't, it could have been your last chance. He could come right now. What if every moment that we lived as if it were our last moment? What if we ate every meal as if it were our last meal? That might change how we say grace, wouldn't it? So this imminence of the return of Christ was not so much to pin down a date as it was to change how we conduct ourselves in our daily lives and in the world. Kimberly, go ahead and take us into chapter 2.
So friends, it's obvious that our visit to you was no waste of time. We had just been given rough treatment in Philippi, as you know, but that didn't slow us down. We were sure of ourselves and God. We went right ahead and said our piece, presenting God's message to you, defiant of the opposition. God tested us thoroughly to make sure that we were qualified to be trusted with this message. Be assured that when we speak to you, we were not after crowd approval, only God approval.
Okay, stop. He mentions, before he talks about that they're not after man's approval, but after God's approval. After he mentions that they had been, he says, mistreated. That's an understatement. They were beaten to a bloody pulp in Philippi. And they were stirring up a hornet's nest right there in Thessalonica because the Jewish people thought that Paul and Silas and Timothy were simply coming to destroy and to be rabble-rousers in the Judaic religion. They thought that they were just coming there to mess things up. So they're already preparing for a beating on these Christian believers. What does Paul say? He says that these things that we went through were preparation. These things were tests to make sure that we were approved to share the gospel with you. They hadn't received very positive crowd approval everywhere they went. A lot of their response to their preaching was very, very negative to the point of getting beat up for it. So they were going to preach this no matter what, whether or not you wanted to agree with their teaching or not. Because there's a good chance we're going to go in there and preach and get beaten up. So what is. That was their attitude. Kimberly, go ahead.
Since we've been put through the battery of tests.
Battery of tests. Good word, Paul.
You're guaranteed that both we and the message are free of error, mixed motives, or hidden agendas. We never used words to butter you up. No one knows that better than you. And God knows we never used words as a smokescreen to take advantage of you. Even though we had some standing as Christ's apostles, we never threw our weight around or tried to come across as important with you or anyone else.
So what Paul asserts here is that their motive for coming and preaching the gospel was pure. It was for the sake of being obedient to God, because they had nothing to gain personally from preaching the gospel of Christ. They knew they were probably looking forward to a beating. So what can we learn from that? When we share the gospel with people, share it out of a pure motive. Students, if you take Christianity into the classroom, and I know they teach stuff in the public school that we don't agree with, don't use your arguments and your apologetics of Christianity just to play devil's advocate. If you're going to use our faith for apologetics in school, if you're going to win people to the Lord, do it out of a pure motive, because this could be their last moment. That's why we share the gospel at work. That's why we share the gospel at school, out of pure motives. At the end of time, there will be no tally of something like this. Hey, Mark, good job. Glad you made it to heaven. You won 121 people to the Lord during your life. Of that 121 people you saved, only 40 stayed in church, but that's okay, because 12 of those 40 actually got in a life group and took charge of their lives. There's not going to be anything like that. You know, it's going to be, well done, good and faithful servant. Come and enjoy your reward. That's what we have to look forward to. Kimberly, verses 8 and 9.
We weren't aloof with you. We took you just as you were. We were never patronizing, never condescending, but we cared for you the way a mother cares for her children. We loved you dearly, not content to just pass on the message. We wanted to give you our hearts, and we did.
So what they basically did with the Thessalonians is they moved in. He's making the argument that we came to you out of pure motives. Not only did we come to you out of pure motives, but we wanted to share our lives with you. And not just our lives, our hearts. The Thessalonians really got to know what kind of people Paul and Timothy and Silas were. I hope that as you're a participant in work or a participant in your class, that you're transparent enough to really get to know the people that you're working with and living with and educating yourself with, and letting them really get to know you. Because when you share your heart with a person, that's the kind of thing that really starts breaking down barriers. Paul and Silas and Timothy were the coolest kind of visitors that you could ever have over to your house. They're the kind of visitors who you turn around and they're not there, and you go to look and they're doing the dishes. And it's like, whoa, hey, those are my dishes, get away, you're the guest. No, I got it. And they just continue doing the dishes, even though you kind of disagree with it. But then their hope is that you'll start doing the dishes with them. And those are where some of the most intimate conversations happen, right there in the kitchen. For the guys, sometimes the most intimate conversations happen accidentally over a hot grill out in, on a nice, cool fall day. Or some of those conversations happen in the most unlikely places when we're participating in life together. Now, from time and time again, we'll have people over to our house for lunch or dinner, and we're not saying that we expect you to do dishes for us. Okay, that's just saying that that's the kind of guests that Paul and Silas and Timothy were here. He says in verse 9,
You remember us in those days, friends, working our fingers to the bone, up half the night, moonlighting, so you wouldn't have the burden of supporting us while we proclaimed God's message to you.
So they were not even a burden. And that's the definition of grace. When somebody decides that they want to participate in your life, they begin participating in your life, get interested in the things that you do, and begin helping themselves to your life as you learn how to help yourselves into their life. And you become like this. Not like a thumb, but like the rest of the fingers, joining together in oneness as a family. Kimberly, verse 10.
You saw with your own eyes how discreet and courteous we were among you, with keen sensitivity to you as fellow believers. And God knows we weren't freeloaders. You experienced it all firsthand. With each of you, we were like a father with his child, holding your hand, whispering encouragement, showing you step by step how to live well before God, who called us into his own kingdom, into this delightful life.
Some of the best times that I've had with Caleb have been when he and I have been able to have a daddy date. And we go to West Shore Pizza and have some pizza and a lemonade, or we go out and do something. But we're just holding hands, walking across the parking lot, and he'll come up with a question. And